Hello. I've just heard the story which was in the Sun the other day that Jeremy Kyle has been talking about his depression following his exit from the Jeremy Kyle show, and how he was helped by his nanny, who he's now going to marry. I am very, very sorry for Jeremy. But what I find extraordinary is that Sun can print that story in such a way that it almost forgets that the Jeremy Kyle show was responsible for people's death. And this is unforgivable. There was a completely cursory examination in Parliament in 2019, I think. A committee was assembled to look into the problems of reality TV. It sat for a very short space of time. It took evidence from 4 people who had been involved in reality TV, 2 from the Jeremy Kyle show and 2 from Love Island. This is not a thorough investigation. A thorough investigation is where you have testimony from lots of people. There was lots of testimony from producers. There was lots of testimony from those people who make these shows and have a very good reason for defending them, because this is the cheap way to make television and make a lot of money. There is no independent, professional, and reliable system of care that is set up before, after, and during these shows. Anybody else who goes on television, anybody else who puts themselves into the media spotlight, whether on television, in cinema, in the theatre, on radio, they would have an agent who has their own care at heart. They would have access to a union, generally Equity. Equity couldn't give a damn about this. And they would also have probably private medical care. What you've got in reality TV, all these things, under the new Ofcom guidance, which is a result of this committee hearing, this absurd, truncated, laughable sticking plaster for concern. Under that Ofcom guidance, we are told that the responsibility for looking after people who are on reality TV shows falls with the company. So the company uses psychiatrists in part to cast the show. They use psychiatrists to find out which buttons can they press. And then these same psychiatrists are used to, as part of the care package after the show. This makes no sense to me at all. When I spoke to the Secretary General of Equity and asked him why a union that represents performers is not representing those people who've been on reality TV, he started talking about professionals. Well, this was not how the Actors Union was set up in the first place. Equity was quite a late development. Right at the heart of the trades union movement was a thing called the Variety Artists Federation. And those people who know me know how much I love Mary Lloyd and all her ridiculous songs, and every little movement has a meaning of its own. Every little movement tells a tale, and so on. But she was right at the heart of the first strike that took place. And it was at the cutting edge of the union movement. And they closed all the theatres, all the music halls for over a week, because they were concerned that people did not have proper representation, people were being abused by management, people were not being paid properly. Of course the stars were paid, but those people who went on night after night to do a bit of juggling, they were treated appallingly. And the Artists Federation supported them. And the idea of the Artists Federation was that anybody who was performing was entitled to representation. Even if they didn't have very much money, even if they weren't paid a great deal, they were entitled to that representation because they were performing in public. Now, as I see it, people on reality TV are performing in public. Now, in the 1960s, Equity, which was set up only in the 1930s, in imitation of an American trades union called Equity, the British Equity was set up, And in the 1960s, it took over the Musical Artists Federation, the Variety Artists Federation, and it should keep that spirit, and it doesn't. I was very interested in the Secretary General of the Equity. He seems to be a sort of career trades union man, and so I asked him directly, if these people who are on reality TV are not represented by Equity, who are they represented by? And I've never had an answer. I would like that answer. And meanwhile, I think, yeah, I'm very sorry that Jeremy Kyle has had problems following the axing of his show. But the first person that we have to think of is not Jeremy Kyle, but the victims of that show. And then we must think of Jeremy Kyle. And a newspaper article, I think, which doesn't mention that, which glides over that issue, is a bad newspaper article. It was brought to my attention only today, so I hadn't known about it until today. But there we are. Please follow my channel, and please ring the bell. Thank you.